Welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast with your host, Helen Fritsch. Helen is a 60-plus, lifelong competitive athlete, flight attendant, published fitness model, writer, IFBB bodybuilding pro, and certified wine specialist who believes that your age is irrelevant to pursue goals, dreams, and desires. Are you a woman in her 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond who still has a burning desire to pursue a dream or a passion? Are you thinking about starting a new chapter in your life, but you're hesitant, thinking that you might be too old or just don't know where to begin? The Age is Irrelevant podcast is a podcast devoted to women who want to defy the odds, smash barriers, and redefine happiness and success after 40. It's time to make a difference. There is no need to dread blowing out that added birthday candle every year. A new movement is slowly taking momentum, where being over the hill just isn't relevant anymore. Age labels are being thrown out the window, and women are rediscovering the strength within themselves to make a difference, not only within their own lives, but also touching and inspiring the lives of other women. Join Helen as she and her guests discuss all aspects of aging after 40 and how to make the aging process and those twilight years more rewarding, exciting, and fun.
Welcome back to another episode of the Age is Irrelevant podcast, the podcast where we prove that it's never too late to live your best life. Today, before we dive into our conversation, I have something exciting to share. My brand new book, Life Lessons from the Overhead Bin, is officially here. The book is a collection of stories, wisdom, and real-life lessons gathered from my years of traveling the world as a flight attendant, navigating challenges, and embracing new chapters of life. It's about finding strength, letting go of emotional baggage, and giving yourself permission to soar at any age. If you've ever wondered how to chase dreams, reinvent yourself, or simply live with more joy and purpose, this book was written for you. You can grab your copy today on Amazon. I can't wait for you to read it, and please let me know how you like it. Now, today's episode is one that you don't want to miss. I had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with Sister Pat Farrell, a Dominican sister of San Rafael, who is redefining what it means to age with strength, grace, and purpose. Our conversation was deeply engaging as we explored her journey of faith and sisterhood, her inspiring leap into the world of powerlifting, and how she balances fitness, religion, and life with such a vibrant outlook in her 70s. Sister Pat's story is one of resilience, joy, and empowerment, and I promise you, you will walk away feeling uplifted and motivated to embrace your own journey, no matter what your age. Now, may I please introduce to you Sister Pat Farrell. Hi, Sister Pat. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a real privilege to be here.
I'm just so thrilled. And for my listeners, I am talking to 72-year-old, and that's important that I'm throwing the age in there, Sister Pat Farrell. Now, Sister Pat is a Dominican sister of San Rafael, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area. She you have to tell me about the terminology about this. You took your professional vows in 1996. I think that's correct.
It would be my final vows in 1999, actually.
Okay, all right.
I took my first vows in 1996.
Okay, and then your perpetual vows in 1999.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to talk to Sister Pat, I'm Catholic. I went to Catholic school growing up, and I have a very soft spot in my heart for my sisters and my nuns. So we'll talk about that, but also too, we're going to talk about life as a powerlifting competitor. Yes, you heard me right. Sister Pat is a powerlifter, and she has competed in her first powerlifting meet just recently, and we're going to talk about that. But I think it's wonderful to have someone like you on the show. My podcast, Age is Irrelevant, is all about women like you who don't let age interfere in their dreams, their hopes, their ambitions, their goals, regardless of what their age is or what their situation is. So again, welcome to the show.
Thank you again. Happy to be here.
So let's start off. I always like hearing about my guest background. So share a little bit about your background and then what led you to choose your life as a sister.
Yeah, well, I won't go into the whole long story, but I am someone who was what we call, you would understand this, Helen, as a cradle Catholic, someone who grew up in a family that is Catholic, was baptized when we were infants, and kind of grew up in the church, went to Catholic school, and received what we call the sacraments and all of that. And so, but when I was, let's say when I was in my 19, 20, I kind of had a drifting time. And I tried out different kinds of spiritualities and things, and kind of was testing a lot in life. And I think, and so just to cut to the chase, when I was, I would have been, maybe it would have been in my late 30s when I started to kind of, I watched a television program that was always, it's amazing how we can find the holy in places we don't expect it. And I was watching 60 Minutes, and Harry Reasoner, who is no longer with us, he was interviewing a woman who was a doctor and had chosen one of the poorest counties in the U.S. to practice medicine. It was in the Delta area of Mississippi. Tutwiler was the name of the town. And at the time, I was working for a bank. I was a vice president, commercial lender for a bank in Santa Monica, and we worked predominantly with health professionals, with doctors, and a lot of the doctors that I worked with were in Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, all of that west side of LA, and my perspective on doctors, it wasn't that they were bad. It wasn't that they shouldn't have been trying to grow their practices and perhaps open up a boutique for their wife on Rodeo Drive. But this was in Beverly Hills. But this was the perspective of the doctors that I had. And so when I watched this program on 60 Minutes, and here is this woman who has chosen something entirely different for herself as she's practicing medicine, it was quite a difference for me to observe that. Not that I don't think that people like that existed, but it was such a contrast for me at that time, given who I was working with. Good people, but their perspectives were different. And then into the program, you discovered that she was a sister. And as many people call sisters, that she was a nun. And she was working in Tutwiler, Mississippi with other sisters who were nurses, social workers, teachers, and they were working with people in Tutwiler, Mississippi to help them in their situation there. And something really kind of like opened, I don't know how to explain it, but something inside of me opened up, where what I saw in these women was not that they were just prayerful, pious women doing the Lord's work and whatever God told them, whatever the priest told them, whatever their superior told them. They weren't just going with what they were told they should do. It was clear to me in listening to these women's stories and the description of what they did and who they were, that they were people who had something inside of them compelled them to give their lives like that. And I wanted that.
I love that. I really do.
Yeah. And so that kind of drew me back to coming back to the church. And eventually I went through a whole, what we call a discernment process, and decided to actually enter the convent. And I entered this congregation of the Dominican Sisters of San Rafael. And the interesting thing about it is that in the period of becoming a sister, there are stages. So you come in and you are a candidate, and after you've spent 6 months to a year, maybe 2, whatever works for that person, you become a novice. And there's someone is a novice for 2 years, and one of those years you spend together with other, it's called a canonical year according to canon law. And so for that year, I went to St. Louis, Missouri, to what we call the collaborative novitiate. So different congregations of Dominican sisters in the country would send their novices there to St. Louis to have an experience together. And toward the end of that year that I was in St. Louis, we had a ministry experience where we were going to go somewhere together where groups of sisters work together in ministry to the underserved. And I had the opportunity, and this was the only year that this ever happened with the collaborative novitiate. I went to Tutwiler, Mississippi.
Oh, wow.
So it was an incredible experience of feeling like God put this whole package together.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's incredible. That kind of gives me goosebumps.
Yeah. I mean, and the story for me, I mean, it still touches me, and the story is now old.
Right.
Right.
I'm
accustomed to the story, and I don't always think about it, but when I do, it's so very clear to see how God works in our lives, how the universe provides opportunities for us that we have absolutely no concept of, and all we can do is respond.
I'm a firm believer of that. I find a lot of people go through life with blinders on. And, I'm all about blinders off, and my peripheral vision is very wide because the universe always has your back, and the universe is always sending you clues.
Yep.
And sometimes you listen to the clues and sometimes you don't. And then when it wants you to listen, it'll just smack you upside the head. And I've had really bad things, tragic, heartbreaking things happen. But those things, if they didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I'm actually very grateful for the sad, times in my life, because it's gotten to me where I am today. And then if you go back and you look, you think, there was always a plan. So
it's a mystery.
Yeah.
It's a mystery. And so then I ended up taking vows after that. And so, I mentioned that it was 96. The way that things work is unlike a marital relationship where, you make vows and then you have kids, and there's, people do break off these relationships for reasons. But the way religious life, becoming a brother, a sister, a priest works is that there's a lot of, the church wants to provide the individual with a lot of freedom to be able to make the choice or not make the choice. Because it's not an ordinary thing. The ordinary thing is to couple up with somebody and have a life partner and raise a family in some way. So whereas this is not the usual thing, and so it's tested out for a number. So I made vows for 3 years, and that's temporary vows. And so toward the end of those 3 years, or it can be longer, but I took the 3 years, and at the end of that time, I chose to make final vows, and the congregation chose to say, sounds like a good idea to us too. So anyway, so that's how that all worked.
That's awesome. And so let's talk about the differences, because we just mentioned this very quickly earlier about sisters and nuns. And can you tell my listeners what the difference is?
Sure. I mean, so I am a sister, a Dominican sister. And there are a number of, so there's sisters and there's nuns. And nuns are women religious. So the whole category of women and men who make vows in this way are considered to be religious. And among this group of religious women are nuns and sisters. And nuns are those women who also make a profession of vows, and they live their lives in a cloistered context. So they live in a monastery or a convent, and all of their work, all of their conversation. conversations. It all happens inside of that property. It doesn't mean that they never leave it, go to an appointment or go outside on a retreat or things like that. But their lives are spent within that property with that group of sisters always. And recently I went up to Redwoods Monastery in Redwoods Abbey up in Northern California, and the nuns up there, they're Cistercian nuns, and they live all the time there at Redwoods Abbey, and their work is they make honey, and they sell the honey.
Interesting.
Some monasteries make altar breads. Some monasteries make cheeses. They make vestments or garments, so their work is usually done there on the premises. Whereas sisters were founded like in about the 18th century in Europe. They started to be founded by women who saw a need in their cities of children who were without a home. There were orphans, or there was a need for religious education for children, or there were women who were in trouble, or whatever it might be. And so these sisters started ways of helping them, and they created a community of women to do these things together. And they also lived in convents, but they went out and did their work, or they had a school and the kids came to them, or maybe they opened up a hospital, or so we are sisters. And so that's the distinction. And most Catholics don't get the distinction, let alone people who aren't Catholic. So most folks call us nuns, and we kind of shrug and say, yeah, they think we're nuns, but we're sisters. But it's kind of like we're going to talk about powerlifting. It's kind of like the conversation. Powerlifters get upset because people refer to it as weightlifting. So weightlifting is Olympic weightlifting, and powerlifting is not that. So it's kind of, we have our names that we call things. I happen to also be vegan. Somebody might refer to me as vegetarian. Well, I'm not vegetarian, but I'm vegan. So, but if somebody, everything doesn't always need correcting. So,
right. Yeah, no, I can get that. I'm a flight attendant, and I still have people on the plane calling us, stewardesses, and they call the guys stewards, and we're like, no, we're not. We're flight attendants now. That's one big general category, but I get it. How has your faith shaped the way that you approach challenges and opportunities in your life?
That's a good question. It's a good question. I don't think that I've thought about how does it help me do that, but I think what my faith does is it gives me, I have a sense of something that is beyond me. And certainly out of my control. Our lives are not in our control, and yet we need to show up and do what we can. And I think what my faith teaches me, and what I have observed in the faith of others, whether they are present on this earth right now or the ones who have gone before us, is to not give up because of that something more, something beyond us, something and someone that loves us greater than we can imagine, and that there is something that is bigger and greater than we can imagine, and to not give up.
That's a great answer. Many people might not connect sister and powerlifter in the same sentence. So let's talk about how you got into powerlifting.
Well, first of all, I do enjoy exercise to a degree. I mean, from time to time, I've tried jogging, but it just doesn't really work for me as much as I've tried it, here and there. And, I think when you get when I was younger, I didn't think about it very much, but maybe around middle age, I think probably when I hit around 50, I started to think about this more. And I did at the time. I lived in San Rafael, the city of San Rafael, and across from our convent, because we have our property is adjacent to that of Dominican University of California, and across the street was a gym. And so I'd go to the gym, and at one point I got somebody, there was a fellow who got to train me on how to use the machines and some weights and stuff.
Right.
And I actually found that I enjoyed it. I guess I knew what I was doing to a certain degree, but I didn't really progress in any major way. And I would be on again and off again too. I'd be consistent for a while, and then I'd get distracted, go to a meeting, go away, go on vacation. Those kinds of distractions would take me off course.
Right.
It would take me a while to get back on course again. So that was kind of what my experience was over the years with resistance training, I'll call it. And at that point, I don't know that I really knew what the benefits of resistance training were, because there wasn't that much said about it 20 years ago. I don't think, in terms of osteoporosis and sarcopenia.
Right.
And so it was just something that I liked doing better than some other things. And so I think probably I decided to get a little more serious. And even then, it's for the past 3 years or so, if you have a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or any of those kinds of things, you can really get hooked on steps. Mm-hmm. And so for 4 years or so, I've been really tracking those. And so I've been very religious about getting 2,000 steps a day. And I know the last, this year, I probably averaged 12,000 steps. If you set a goal here, it's easier. It's not so hard to exceed it.
Right, right.
So I enjoy doing that. I enjoy walking. I've always enjoyed hiking. But it was probably, I'm trying to think, when I started to think about getting back into weight training again was a couple of years ago. And I did get some weights and things and a bench that I have here where I live. And I would use them. And again, it was sporadic. And so I went, our congregation has a wellness coordinator for the sisters, that takes care, addresses needs of sisters' ongoing health that isn't medical. And so I approached her and told her that I was wanting to do more with this, and could I get a coach? And so she said, this is a great idea. So I found a coach. She's
awesome.
An online coach. And I had in the back of my mind, she was someone who had actually competed. She had competed in bodybuilding, but she also, I listened to some podcast interviews of her. She had dropped that during COVID and moved to powerlifting then. And she's coached people toward that. And I thought, well, that could be cool. I think I could. Goals are good for me.
Me too.
Goals are good for me. And I can tell you that in 2001, because I can find the pictures, 2001, I weighed about 212 pounds. Mm. And I took it off with Weight Watchers and going to a mostly vegan diet at the time. And so that was 2001. And I can't say that I kept it at one particular weight the whole time, because it has fluctuated over the years. Never got back up quite that high. But I've always kind of struggled with it. And I think one of the issues around that is that we often have with things like weight is that we get to a goal. We got the goal. Now what?
You're up. Mm-hmm.
And so I find that the same can be true with exercise. That I thought the idea of a goal of a competition sounded really cool. And it isn't like we have some precedents. In my congregation, we have a sister, her name is Marian Irvine. And back in, I'm not going to remember the year, but when maybe it was 64, it was whenever the LA Olympics was. But she went to the qualifying for the Olympics in marathon running. And Marianne has been interviewed by people just like you over the years when she was doing her running. So it was not an out of the park kind of notion that a sister could do something like this.
Right, exactly.
And so I thought, let's go with this. And so, so after I started working out with my coach, and I was using the weights that I had in my apartment and stuff like that, and I was quickly outgrowing the weights that I had. And, you could spend a fortune on outfitting yourself for that. So she suggested I go to a gym, and I went to a commercial gym nearby that was inexpensive, especially with Medicare. And although, well, there's two things. Number one, I was doing some sort of a deadlift with some sort of a bar, and she said, you're already lifting the weight that is a barbell. I want you to go lift a barbell. And so then the next thing I go and I try lifting a barbell, and I put the big 10-pound weights on the end of them. They look heavier than they are. Yeah. But I put those on there, and I lifted that up, and I felt, how shall I say it? I felt powerful. Picking up that bar with those weights on it was a moment of, wow, I can do this. And so now that particular gym, those big commercial gyms have problems in that it's not always easy to find the benches. It's not always easy to find the weights. It's not always easy to find the spaces. It's can be challenging. And so then I, again, went back to our wellness coordinator, because the other thing my coach was suggesting as I was doing bench pressing was that she wanted me to have somebody spot for me. So that this bar wouldn't fall on me and crush me. The other thing is that you will do less if you are afraid that it's going to fall on you. And if you've got somebody behind you ready to catch it. So I ended up finding a smaller gym nearby where it all works. And they happen to have a group of trainers and members that were going to go to a powerlifting meet in July, and I joined them. So, and I had a great time.
That's amazing. And probably another thing that you probably found amazing too is when you started training in your apartment with your weights, and then you finally come to a point where you're like, these aren't heavy to me anymore. And that you realized that you needed to go up in weight and you were ready to progress.
It is amazing. It really is. And I remember one time walking into that gym, and there was a barbell with two 35-pound weights on it. And I decided, I wonder what that feels like. And I walked over to it, and I couldn't pick it up. So what is that? That is 35, 230. That's 70 pounds plus 45 is what?
115.
Yeah, 115, and at the competition, I lifted 160 pounds.
Yeah.
It's like, I couldn't even budget from the ground. It was like, it wouldn't move at all. And I thought, oh, well, maybe someday. Well, someday arrived rather quickly.
And up to the point where you competed at your meet, had you ever lifted 160 before, or was that? Oh,
no.
So that was a PR for you too.
Well, wait a second. I may have. Okay, so let me take that back, because like 2 weeks before the meet, my coach had me doing testing, to kind of test out what my 1 rep max might be.
Right.
I think I hit 160 at that point. And I think the weight at the meet was actually 159.87 or something like that, because they do it in kilograms rather than pounds.
Right.
But so I had lifted 160. It wasn't a PR, but it felt pretty exciting nonetheless.
Right. What was the reaction of your fellow sisters and your community when they first discovered this new hobby that you had, and that you were going to compete?
Well, they were most gracious. I wondered if there weren't some eye rolls when I wasn't looking. like Now what is she up to? But no, then no one said that. No one said. Everybody's been very encouraging because I think I've always been doing things like like exercise. So I don't think in some ways it probably didn't surprise them, although it was kind of out of the ordinary. But and certainly there were half a dozen of the sisters came to the meet, and they were great cheerleaders, and they were thrilled to be there.
That's great. And I think what's great too is that, again, the concept that the public has of sisters and nurses, and I would imagine that your fellow sisters showed up in civilian clothes, and you were like laughing and cheering and clapping, and I think people were like, they're sisters. I mean,
oh yeah, they made friends. Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's awesome. So what was one of the things that drove you to, start competing? I mean, were you thinking about your health? I mean, you probably were thinking about your health in general, but was there another, like something, sometimes you get that gut feeling or something that drives you that, something's like gnawing at you that you're like, I feel like I need to do this.
That's a good question. I said that it's good to have goals, and one can have goals without going to a competition, certainly.
Right.
My goal could be to get to lifting 100, and my next goal might be, I want to lift 175 pounds. I don't need a competition to get there. Mm-hmm. However, there is something, and I'm sure that Sister Marion, who ran those marathons and went to the Olympic trials, felt the same kind of thing. She could have run around the track as many times as she wanted to, but there is something about that competition. You're competing with yourself, but you're competing against other people. And there is something, I don't know if it sparks the adrenaline or what it is, when there's other people running with you or lifting with you, and you're all trying to do a little bit better. There's an energy about that is different than when you are going it alone.
No, I agree. I ran track in school, and kind of the same thing. You're out on your own practicing, but then when you're up against in a meet, it's totally different. So.
And I think it's kind of like the same thing, when we enter religious life, we enter community, and there's something about the community, good or bad, that encourages us to live the life that we do.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that the community of the people in that room competing, it's kind of, there's a challenge to do the best you can.
Mm-hmm. And you did. And you did. No one was disappointed.
Least of all myself. Yes. It was a great time.
Do you feel that your age has given you a different kind of strength, like mental, spiritual, physical, compared to 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago?
Well, certainly I have the energy to, I guess I have the energy, the desire to do it now that I didn't have when I was 50. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I was 40, I was taking on a different challenge. When I was 40, I was entering the convent.
Right. Well, that's right.
So, I mean, so there have been other, mm-hmm. I think this is that chapter. Mm-hmm. This is that chapter. Certainly, I could look back and say, had I started lifting when I was 30, I could really be lifting heavier weights than I am now. And I may never be able to achieve what I could have had I been lifting consistently earlier in my life. But I can do the best that I can do. And that's good. I'm good with that.
That's funny. I've interviewed several women on this podcast who didn't start their fitness journey until their 60s. And now at their 70s, 80s, and even 90s, they're world champions in their sport.
Well, there's fewer people to compete against at this point, but
well, that's true. But I laugh because being a track and field athlete, I interviewed this woman, and she, at the time she was 85, and she was the world record holder for pole vaulting in her age category. And after the interview, I've always been fascinated by pole vaulting, and I thought, you know what? If she can pole vault, I can pole vault. And so I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, and when I moved here 5 years ago, I thought I'm going to find a pole vaulting academy, and I did, and I started pole vaulting. So, like, you just never know who is going to inspire you. I know for a fact that probably so many women of all ages are inspired by your story. And I love hearing that women in the second chapter of their life, when society expects us to sit on the couch or in a chair and just rapidly decline into the grave, that most of us, that's our starting point where we are launching a whole new era because of all the knowledge and wisdom that we've acquired over the first 40 years of our lives, or our hobbies, our thought processes. Things are just different, and we just look at life in a different direction, in a different way. And when I see stuff like this, I'm just tickled to death, and it just makes me so excited because it's going to prompt other people to follow your footsteps.
Yeah, well, that would be a hope, certainly, and that I think we see so many women and men our age that struggle with their health, that struggle with mobility, and certainly they're not going to be able to bend over and lift up a 160 pounds when they haven't worked at it, just as I couldn't pick up that 115 pounds before. Whereas if it's 115 pounds, I'm doing 5 reps of that,
Right.
But the thing is if this can encourage people to try something that they haven't tried, that they've wanted to try, well, maybe I could.
Right.
I mean, I'm part of on Facebook, there's groups. And so I joined a group that is women over 70 who lift weights, and,
Oh, good.
So it's kind of, and so people post videos of what they've done, and we cheer one another on. And I also try to make sure that I post my fails.
Oh, that's good. No, that's good too. That's important, I think.
There was one, I got these neat, my new goal for the next meet, and I'm going to sign up for a meet in January. And for that meet, my goal is to be able to do a squat, because at this point, the depth of my squat is not low enough to compete. So this is what I'm working on.
Oh, got it.
But I did get sleeves. Okay. So I got my sleeves, and you're supposed to get them really tight. And so I had one heck of a time just trying to get them off, and the video camera happened to still be on because I video my workouts for my coach. Right. So you can critique them. And so, but it was still going, and here I am struggling, trying to get the things off. And I decided, this would be a fun one to post so that, people can see, this stuff is, when we struggle with stuff, it's not just.
No, you're right. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
That's true. I interviewed a gal a little while back. Her name is Karen Hurley, and she's a 70 plus power lifter, also world champion, as a matter of fact. So you may want to look her up. She's on social media, and super nice gal, very inspiring, just like you. So that's somebody who I really enjoyed talking to. But let's talk about your training. What does your training look like in a typical week?
Well, I go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week. It kind of depends. I try to go every other day, basically. And so that's, and occasionally there are things in the schedule that just kind of like blow that out of the water. But I think that I am following a program that is called periodization.
Right. Yes. Very familiar.
So it is. So like yesterday, I did bench press. So I did some different versions of bench press. One with some dangling weights on the bar, and some conventional ones, and then some dumbbell bench presses. So, and along with a couple of other exercises, I think it was kettlebell, and so And it's usually the exercise time is around an hour to an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. And so then I come home and I got work and things that I do. And then all of a sudden I feel exhausted. But it passes. Tomorrow when I go to the gym, I will be working on squatting. So I will be working on an exercise that is helping me get used to a lower squat, in that I put a band on a bar and I hang on to the band as I drop down as close to the floor as I can get.
Okay.
That gets my butt down pretty far.
Yeah.
And then after that, then I will do some squats with a barbell as low as I can go, which isn't as low as I can with that band.
Right.
And there'll be some other exercises as well. And then after 2 days after that is probably deadlifting. So, I mean, it's kind of, and bench gets sprinkled in at different times. I'm not really quite sure how that works, but
right.
So that's, so then there's other what they call accessory exercises. She had me do the first time I've done this for a while, but there was a bicep curl, and I thought, well, that's interesting. That would be in the bodybuilding category usually, but she threw that in there. So there's other kinds of cable pull downs and different kinds of things.
That's good.
So a variety, but it's kind of rotating through those basics. But
right. That's good. How do you stay motivated on days that you just don't feel like lifting? Because I think we all go through that.
Well, the good news about the gym that I joined is that you make an appointment for your space.
Oh, so then you feel compelled that you have to show up.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. I like that a lot.
And the good news about that too is that in these spaces there's the cage, there's the barbell, there's the weight. It's all there. So you do not have to chase anything down in the gym.
Oh, good. That's good. You briefly mentioned earlier that you're vegan. So let's talk about your diet, because trying to get enough protein in, is that difficult for you? And have you been vegan like your whole life?
I've been vegan for the past 12 years, pretty steadily. Living in community creates its own challenges with that. And every now and then, if the vegan police were watching me, they would say I'm not a vegan.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a regular thing, but I also don't believe in labels like that. So, right. I've shared this with someone else, is that a couple of years ago, I visited a friend in New York who was a sister whose friend had died. And anyway, I went to go visit her, and she wanted to serve lunch. And I went with a friend, and I told my friend, whatever she serves, I'm eating it, And so I'm not apologizing for that tuna salad that we had. And I think that is as important as anything else to respect her. Yeah. But for the past 12 years, I've been vegan, and I think that my health shows that. And I don't wave the sign that says that a vegan diet is the only way to be healthy, because I think that there are many ways to eat healthfully. However, this has worked for me because I'm 72 and I don't take any medication.
That's incredible. Bravo. So, that's great.
Now, I don't get the miraculous numbers that some say they get. My cholesterol's never reached those lows that people brag about, but it's not high enough to medicate. So, especially not at my age. Right. So, I feel strong. Protein. Now, a lot of there are a lot of folks out there that say as long as you get enough calories, you'll get enough protein. I think that's for the basic person who's not getting either the 12,000 steps or lifting weights. I can't speak to, but I know for myself, I need to be intentional about getting my protein. And so I count it. I count my protein and I count my calories every day. I use an app on my phone, and it's on my laptop as well. But so I keep track of that because I want to make sure I get enough protein to support whatever strength that needs to be built. Because we go to the gym and we tear down the muscles, and then the next day, that evening, we're recovering. We need to provide the building blocks for our body to be able to build those muscles back bigger than they were before.
Yep.
So I do pay attention to it. I eat tofu almost every day, plenty of it. I make my own soy milk, and from that I make my own yogurt.
Wow.
I do eat legumes, but I don't, like beans and lentils and things like that. I don't necessarily count on them for the protein, but more for the tofu. I'll use protein powder in a protein drink every day. And I also, I don't know if you know what seitan is. So it's made from wheat gluten, and I make my own seitan as well. Sometimes I'll buy the stuff at the store, but it's a lot less expensive if you make it yourself. So,
wow.
And it's got a pretty high amount of protein in it. So
that's amazing. That's awesome. Well, it sounds like that you're dialed in. I think there's so many women out there who don't, one, eat enough on a daily basis, and two, definitely do not eat enough protein. And so we definitely need to have protein at every meal, especially as we increase in age. Our bone density declines, our hormones. I mean, just a wide variety of things. So it sounds like you're right on track. I do want to talk about you on the day of your competition. Now, can you describe what it felt like to step up on that platform for like the very first time in front of all these people?
Well, that was really a different experience. I mean, I've been in front of people before, and, as you get older and you're in front of people, whether it's singing or giving a presentation or whatever it is, I think we lose some of that anxiousness that we might have had the first time that we stepped behind a microphone. This was a different experience. It was, I did actually feel nervous and anxious about it, because there you are in this silly little singlet. The most unflattering piece of fabric you could ever want to wear.
Right.
And so there you are, and you're on stage by yourself with this weight. It's between you and the weight and everybody watching.
Yep.
And so the first lift that I had was actually the bench press, because I didn't do the squats because I wasn't there yet. So when it was time for the bench press, and I laid down on that bench, and okay, so that, I mean, you'd seen the stuff on television with ABC. And so when I got to the place, people knew who I was.
Oh.
Okay.
The celebrities walking in.
Yeah,
okay.
I was like, so they were all very excited about this 72-year-old nun who's going to compete. And so when I walked out on the stage, there was this loud cheering and stuff, and I didn't hear the commands correctly. So my first lift, I blew.
Oh.
And that's okay. It's okay. What surprised me was I walked off stage and I lifted it well. There was nothing wrong with my lift, but of course, the second try, you start with the same weight. I guess I could have increased it, but that's what the wisdom is to start with the same weight. And I was surprised that I actually felt a little teary afterwards that I'd missed it. Which surprised me that I had that much emotion attached to that, which wasn't that big of a deal, but it was the emotion of the moment, the emotion of the first time, not knowing what to expect, being disappointed, not getting it perfect, all of those kinds of things. But I was fine, and when I did the next lift, I was fine. And they decided that there were a few of us that were older lifting weights, and they got closer so that we could hear them better.
Oh my God, that is so funny.
But it was that surprised me.
That's
Yeah,
so fun.
actually, I haven't mentioned that to anybody. You're the first person I told that little part of the story to that I actually
That's good.
I felt like a little, oh.
That's really good. Do you feel that your age has given you like a different kind of strength? I mean, not only physically, but mentally now?
Well, could be, because I think that despite the fact that I felt that sense of disappointment with that lift, I think that there's a perspective about life and this that is like, I don't expect it to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I want to give it all that I've got, but I think that little sense of disappointment that I felt can be greater for people. I think that when people miss things, when they forget things, when they aren't able to finish something, not because they just blew it off, but because they didn't have the ability to, I think people can feel like failures and want to give up. And I think what age can provide us, if we've been paying attention, is to learn that our failures provide fodder for the next thing, and and we can let go of the disappointments and the failures, laugh them off, even look at how we felt about it and go, oh, there's a little human being feeling sad in there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice that she's there.
No,
So
that's
I think age helps with that.
No, I agree 1,000%. I really do. Everything just compiles to the point where certain things don't trigger you the way they used to, or, being a flight attendant, I deal with, multiple personalities, not only from my crew, because I fly to Europe. So there's a crew of 9 flight attendants, and then the passengers, and there's 300 people on that plane. So, I totally understand all of that. And it's, as I've been flying almost 40 years now, 39 years. And there's a lot of things now that I just let roll right off my shoulder. Whereas years ago I would not, or I'd be all tense and tight and anxious. But it's just like, I choose my battles wisely.
Right.
Let's just say.
It's good not to take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. How do you think powerlifting challenges stereotypes with women and aging?
Well, we're not the frail little dolls, China dolls that are going to break.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're strong. Women are strong. They always have been. And one of the things I thought about was that the founder of our congregation, her name was Marie Gomer, and she came to California in 1850. And she wouldn't have any concept of what powerlifting was, and she could possibly raise her eyebrows thinking about why one of the sisters would be doing something like that. But she might think that because, well, I'm already lifting heavy things. I'm already pushing heavy things.
She's probably throwing around bales of hay and doing all kinds of stuff like on the farm or, whatever else just to survive.
Yeah, so they were already doing heavy lifting. It's just that they didn't get credit for heavy lifting. And
right.
So I think that, and I think that physical, I think it's just, I think that women need to be stronger phically.
They do.
Challenge ourselves.
Mm-hmm. They do. And I think your life depends on it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I say this so many times that there's all these studies out that 60% of people over the age of 60 who fall die. Right. And they don't die from the fall, but they die because their bones are weak and brittle, and they end up going into the hospital, and then they contract pneumonia or some other type of issue, and it's just a means to an end. So, staying strong. For me, going to Europe, I've had 3 really big falls in Europe at work, and walking down the streets, cobblestone streets, and then the next thing you know, face plant. And I've never broken a bone, knock on wood. But I attribute that because I remember going to the hospital with one of them and just to get x-rays, and the doctor was like, "You're how old?" This was one was last year, 67. He goes, "I don't know what you're doing," but he goes, "Keep doing it." I'm like, "I lift weights." And he's like, so many women don't lift weights. So, just keep on. So that keeps me going too, about, because you just never know. One minute you're fine and the next minute you're not.
There's a sister, she teaches, she's a kinesiology professor at Wayne State University in Michigan. And she reached out to me. I've met her. I wouldn't say we're not close or anything, but we know one another. And she saw the stuff on television and reached out to me. One of the things she said to me was that women over age, I want to say it was age 50. There's 50% of women over age 50 can't lift 10 pounds.
Mm.
Now, I may have the numbers wrong.
Right.
So however, it was astonishing.
Right. Right. Well, your message, let me phrase this in a question. So what message do you hope other women, especially those in their 60s, 70s and beyond, take from your story?
That start where you are. I think of things like I'm working on a squat, but I didn't start by squatting. When I realized that I was needing to use my hands to push myself up from a chair, that this is not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we encourage women to become more mobile, more agile, get up from a chair without a support? I see in so many places, on a commode, the little extra, the little riser that gets put on a commode so that people can get up from the toilet. And I wouldn't want to take it away from them because they need help to get up. That it's not to criticize them, but it's about we get to this stage by not using our bodies.
Right. We take so many things for granted, just like you said, getting in and out of a car, opening up a jar, our grip strength, turning a doorknob, opening up a little pill, prescription, how hard those are to open, getting, in and out of the bathtub, the commode. There's so many things we take for granted, and strength training can, alleviate all of that.
What's surprising too is that probably from the time that I was in my 30s, I struggled with lower back pain and periodically I'd to go to the chiropractor. And so I got to the point where I'd go regularly to the chiropractor just to kind of keep it in tow.
Right.
But this deadlifting, I swear it's the deadlifting. I mean,
lower back
doesn't bother me at all. And people will look at an exercise like that and say, "Oh my God, I'd break my back if I did that." Well, not exactly. It actually will strengthen your back so that it won't break.
And your core. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So you mentioned that you're on social media. So if people want to follow you on social media, where can they go?
Okay, well, I don't remember what my handle is on Facebook, but I can find out.
Okay.
Look up Facebook. I think I'm just Pat Farrell. I am Pat Farrell.
Okay.
On Facebook, and there's a number of us, so you just have to find this one.
Oh.
It's a common name. So Instagram, I am P Farrell OP. P-F as in Frank, A-R-R-E-L-L-O-P. P as in Peter.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, sister, an hour has gone by, and this has been enlightening
delightful
and fun and delightful just to hear your story. I'm so excited. I'm literally have goosebumps. I'm thrilled for your exposure. I'm telling you, you have set the bar up here now. And I think a lot of people were thinking, just like I did when I interviewed that 85-year-old woman, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And so more power to you and the rest of your community. And I love that you have all this community of support there too. Especially, they were showing some little clips of you at the gym with all these young kids, and how excited they were with you being there too. So,
My gym bros.
Yeah, your gym bros. She said, yeah, exactly. So it's been wonderful speaking to you. Thank you again for everything.
And thank you for asking.
Thanks.
I sure hope you enjoyed that wonderful conversation with Sister Pat, and here are some takeaways I took from our conversation. Number 1, age is never a limitation. Now, Sister Pat proves that stepping into new challenges like powerlifting in her 70s is not only possible, but life-enhancing. Don't let your age limit your dreams, your strength, the ability to reinvent yourself, or the impact that you can make. Number 2, faith and fitness can complement each other. Her devotion to the Dominican sisters of San Rafael and her passion for health both nourish her spirit and body. Faith teaches us commitment, patience, and persistence. Fitness thrives on the same qualities. Together, they reinforce the idea of showing up daily even when it's hard. Fitness strengthens the body, and faith strengthens the soul. And Sister Pat practices these practices every day. Number 3, strength goes beyond the physical. While lifting weights builds muscle, the true strength lies in resilience, mindset, and showing up for yourself on a daily basis. And finally, joy comes from purpose, whether through religion, community, or personal goals. Living with meaning keeps life vibrant at any age. Now, if you'd like to reach out to Sister Pat or follow her on social media, she's on Facebook at Pat Farrell. It's Farrell, and there are several, so you'll just have to look for her. And on Instagram, it's PFarrellOP. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram at HelenFritch_IFBB Pro, and I'm on Facebook at Helen Fritch. And then if you need to email me, I am at helen@ageisirrelevant.com. You can also go to my website, ageisirrelevant.com, to check out all my other wonderful podcasts, as well as purchase my book there. And if you want to shoot me a question, I'll be more than happy to answer. As always, it's wonderful having you all. If you like this interview, please share. If you like my podcast, please go to Apple and give me a nice review. It would be greatly appreciated. And if you haven't bought my book yet, consider buying my book, because I think it would also enhance your life. And until next time, age truly is irrelevant. Bye-bye.